Good morning. Man, I'm so glad that you're here. If you are a guest with us, maybe this is your first time or your first time in a while, we want to say welcome. And if you have a chance, if you didn't already, and you'll stop by one of the New Here tables that's either in the lobby or at one of the doors. I think there's one way out front of the porch. We just have a little gift we'd like to give to you just as our way of saying thanks for being here. It's got a few goodies in it. And so I hope that you'll do that. We would love to help you get connected and take a next step towards finding community and growing in your relationship with Jesus here at Cornerstone. So if you stop by there, that sort of starts the process for us and helps us be able to do that with you. The other thing I want to say is welcome, special welcome. You may be looking around. There's some familiar faces in the room, and I specifically want to say thank you and welcome to those that are part of our Okatee campus. If you're a part of Okatee, maybe just slip your hand up real quick. We just want to say thank you guys for being here and your flexibility. Give them a round of applause. Yep. So we had a little bit of a setback on Friday afternoon, and so we had to kind of call an audible, if you're familiar with football terms. And so they've gathered here with us this morning, and we're meeting this afternoon to kind of talk through some things and pray together and see what God's doing. So one of the things that I'm learning in my life is that sometimes we make plans and God directs our steps. And so he's directing our steps in a way right now that we're not 100% sure of what that means. And so we're just going to lean into really discovering what that is together as a church. And so I appreciate y'all and your flexibility to be here this morning. I've seen some that are gathered around. I've tried to identify you guys and just say, man, thanks so much for coming today and being here in person with us in Old Town. And Matt, thank you so much for your leadership. I think you're over there today. I saw you in the back of the first service. So Matt, thank you so much. Y'all can do way better than that. Come on. Thank you. They did that in the first service. You're getting like little golf applauses when it's football season. I don't know what that's about when we're doing that. So anyway, grab a Bible if you have one. Turn to the book of Joshua, chapter 24. We're going to go through some info today. If I can find my notes, that would be really helpful. And I want to share, some of the incredible things that God did in 2023. It's hard to believe that we're already in 2024. I don't know how your year has started, but I feel like it should be way beyond January 7th already. I feel like I've had a full month in a week. But it's exciting because God has great things in store for us in 24. He did amazing things for us in 2023. And part of today is just sharing that with you guys. And then I have a charge for us at the end, just a charge of what God has been laying on my heart and kind of where we're headed. Really just personally, that I believe God has something for you in this, not just a bunch of numbers and stats that we're going to share for a few minutes. Okay, so let me roll through this. You can applaud if you want to, but you don't have to. Don't feel obligated for this. We're celebrating Jesus in all of this. This is all him. This has nothing to do with us, okay? So hear these numbers and just, God moved in incredible ways. The first one was this, is that as a church, we grew by 15% or 112 people last year. Which is pretty incredible. And honestly, you look around, I think we actually put some folding chairs in here in this service. So he's moving in some incredible ways. And that's pretty incredible to see. I remember days in the church where nobody was showing up. So it's this is interesting to see God moving in this way. And you're a big part of it. Thank you so much for being there. But one of the big things, you've heard us say this at the end of last year, is we baptized 86 people last year. Now that should be worthy of applause. But just to give you an idea of what that is, that's more than 10% of the adults that gather with us on a Sunday morning. So that's like 15% of our adult numbers. That's how many people were baptized last year. And we have more conversations that are happening at the end of last year, beginning of this year. And so it's very, very exciting to see people that are taking that step, one of obedience. Maybe they weren't baptized by immersion before. But the other thing is there are several people that are just stepping into faith in Jesus. And it's been really, really fun to just be a part of that and hear these stories as they're unfolding and God's working in people's lives. And I look forward to more of that. I don't know if we're going to baptize 86 people in 24. Maybe we'll baptize less, maybe we'll baptize more, but here's what I'm convinced of. We are going to see people's lives changed because of the gospel of Jesus Christ this coming year. So that's exciting to me. We welcome 65 folks into membership. We sent 45 people out on global mission trips, and what's really cool is we had 300 folks from Cornerstone that were out in our community serving on a pretty regular basis, whether that was through serving in our schools and what we do, or Serve Fest, or just other opportunities that we had along the way. 300 of you went out. That's like everybody in this room when you think about it. That's pretty cool. I think we sent that many folks out into the community to serve. We have a mobile food pantry. Did you know we have a mobile food pantry? Some of you didn't know that. Some of you do. We actually, it's called mobile because we don't have people come here. We actually have a team of volunteers, and they go and they serve. They actually take the groceries. They pick them up on every other Tuesday. They pick them up, and they go deliver them to people's homes, and then they talk with them, and they're trying to build a relationship with them. Really, really remarkable stuff, some of the stories that we're hearing. We had one of our food pantry delivery drivers, their family had their food pantry family over with them for Thanksgiving. Like, really, really neat stuff that God's doing in the midst of that. Then they've been coming to church. They were here for Christmas services. They were here for several weeks in December. Just amazing stuff that God's doing in the midst of that. So we have a team of 80-something people that actually pack groceries or deliver groceries. And they serve 53 families, or 250 people get groceries through just your generosity and help. That's worthy of applause right there. Last year we held what we called our uniform bounce back. This was our first ever uniform bounce back. We helped 197 families get uniforms for their kids to start school. So I don't know how many kids that translates to, but that's almost 200 families that were helped, and some of them were showing up. They're like, man, our kids are starting school. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we need. We don't have anything, and we can't buy anything. What do you have? And it was really, really remarkable. I don't know how many loads of laundry that they did to get ready for that, but it was a lot. So if you enjoy doing laundry, catch Kelly, because I think she's got plans for that this year, and I would imagine that will be helping more than 197 families. This was really neat, we launched over 100 new people into small groups this year through what we call a Rooted experience. And so you kind of see Rooted around. It's on the screens a little bit. It'll probably pop up on the screen behind me. Rooted experience is really neat. We did it as a staff earlier in the spring. We launched 100 people out into Rooted this fall. We have about 80 plus people that are signed up to start it next Sunday night. And so if you're in a position, you're saying, I want to connect in community. Maybe you moved here. I met some folks in the first service. They've lived here for 3 weeks. Moved here from Colorado. And if that's part of your story and you want to get connected, you're like, I don't have any friends here. I'd like to find some friends. Then I would encourage you, sign up for Rooted. It's a great way for you to do that. It's going to be on Sunday nights out at our new property. And so you can sign up. The sign-up deadline, I don't remember when it might be today. I don't know. It might be, is it next? Thank you, Austin. Austin says it's today, so it's today. So sign up if you want to be a part of that. There's still room for you. There's 80 plus people that are part of that. As a result of that as well, we have over 300 people connected in small groups in the life of the church. So again, that's about like as many people are in this room. One of the big things that happened last year was just almost a year ago. It was late January 23rd and 24th. We sold this 3.2 acres of land that we've owned for a lot of years as a church. And we purchased 39 acres about 7 miles down the road. So when I talk about new church property, that's where some of these meetings are going to take place. And that was a big deal. We're seeing God move in incredible ways in the midst of that. Many of you have been out there. You've had a chance to experience the property because there are some buildings there. But that was something that some folks were like, man, this happened so fast. But it's something that as a church we've been praying over for the last 7 years. And so it was really, really amazing to see God provide that. And I just, every time I'm on the property and I have my office out there now, I really do feel like I'm walking out a miracle. Like, I believe our God still works miracles, and to me that was one of them, because that whole thing was dead in the water for a couple of years. And then somehow God revived it, and now he has moved and he's provided in incredible ways for us to be on that property. So it won't be long, and we're going to say by to this place, and I know that's going to come with some emotions, and people are going to be sad about that, and I'll be sad about that. My kids have grown up in this space. I've been a part of this church since I think 2002, and so my kids were all a part of this, and some of them are even mad at me at this point for what we're doing. I'm like, it's going to be okay. I promise God's got this, and so I can't wait to see how this all unfolds. But God's doing an incredible work in that. As we continue to celebrate, I don't think you realize how generous of a people that you are. We don't talk about money a ton. We do talk about it. We had a series on it this year. We haven't had a series on it in a couple of years. But man, your generous giving, get this, your generous giving exceeded our $1.7 million budget by over $82,000. That is remarkable. You guys are amazing. And as a part of that, let me just tell you that in December we did a Give Big Sunday for our Christmas offering for our global mission partners. And your generosity in that, I want to tell you, it was $57 short of being $71,000. Yeah. I had to look for a second, double check my math in my head as I had $70,943 written down. So $70,943. That is awesome. So here I want to share this with you. So Thursday I'm in my office and I had the chance to send a message to each one of our partners individually. And I just got a chance to share with them what God did. In here, you're going to be receiving this additional support. We support them. They get something from us every month. I just want to say, look, man, you guys are doing great work where you are and how you're serving, and we just want you to know you're not alone, right, in what you're doing in ministry. And every one of them just shot back, and they wanted me to say this to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you guys so much for your generosity, and not just your generosity. I mean, the financial gift is great for them, but what it means to them to know that, man, you are a part of God being faithful to his promises to them. And we're a part of that. You're part of God being faithful to them. And not only that, but now when they're on the field, they're wherever, how many hours they might be from home. Some of them are local and nationals to where they serve, but some of them are from the States and they're serving overseas. And what they're learning about us as a church is that they are not alone. They are not alone. They have a family here in Bluffton, South Carolina, which doesn't even show up on a world map sometimes if you look at a world map, right? And yet here we are in our church in Bluffton, South Carolina, going global in what God's doing around the world. And all of these folks shot me a message back and just said, tell them thank you so, so much. So I'm sharing that from them, absolutely. So now as we start 2024, we're kind of looking ahead and we're going, okay, what are we planning to do? And I want to remind you, man, there are times we make our plans, but God directs our steps. And sometimes the way that he directs our steps are different than our plans. Anybody ever experienced that in your life? I know it's a big part of my life story, right? Big part of my life story. And I'm living that personally in my life. I'm living that in the life of the church, just as we lead and walk through this, realizing that there's sometimes that you go into something and you're going, I think this is what we're supposed to do. And then you come on the other side of it and God says, you thought wrong, but that's okay because I still got this, right? And that's kind of what 2024 is. And as I share these things, I want you to know, that's part of it. We're making some plans and we're dreaming about some stuff. We're believing that God is leading us in this. He may direct our steps to be exactly that, but he also may direct our steps to be something a little bit different. And I mention that partly because of where we are with our Okatee campus, and some of you are here and you're hearing that, and I'm going to share with you a little bit tonight about what's going on with that, because we don't know exactly, but it's okay because we know the one who does know. And because we know the one who does know, we walk confidently into the future believing that God still has great things in store for us. So as we walk into 2024, here's some of the things that we've been dreaming about. One is that we are working on plans to expand our mobile food pantry. So you've heard me mention that, but we're working on plans to expand it to become what we call a care center for our community. CARE being an acronym that stands for people receiving compassion through aid, resources, and education. So sometimes we just come alongside of them and we provide some aid or assistance, maybe through benevolence. And one of the things that we provide aid for, it might be just through, they might need a repair in their home or something like that. The other part of it is resources. Not that Cornerstone Church is the only resource in the community, because we're not. But some people don't know about all of the resources that are available in the community. So we want to be a place where the people that we connect with, that we're serving, that we can provide them the resources they need. And it might just be through getting together with another organization. And the third component of that is through education. We want to come alongside of people and help educate them. It might be something as simple as working with them to put together a family budget, right? We all know that many people, probably more than half of us in this room, don't live on a budget, and half of people live on a budget, right? And so we want to help people discover, by educating them, this is how you can put together a monthly budget. You can live on that. And then also it might mean that you've got to find some creative ways for you to be able to get groceries, because you're looking at your budget. I don't know if you guys realize how expensive housing is in our area. Yeah? And so maybe they've got to, okay, well, how do I get groceries? And so they might need to learn how to, shop the buy one, get one free. And you've got to be educated on some of that stuff. Some people just go to the grocery store and they're like, I just need all this stuff. And they don't realize there are ways that you can work to be educated to do better with that. And so we want to step into that space for people through our care center. And so we've actually are in the middle of working on 2 different grants right now, in hopes that we will receive those grants, which would allow us to be able to move forward with some of those plans. Over the next 12 and a half months, we plan to send 97 people on global mission trips with all of our mission partners. Guess where those 97 people come from? Yeah, look around the room. Right? It's you. Like, our plans are that we want to send 97 of you out with our mission partners to go and serve. You're going to see, touch, and feel the things that they're doing in ministry. You're going to experience it, and here's my promise. Your life will be changed. Your life will be changed. And you're going to ask me, well, how is my life going to be changed? And I'm going to tell you, I'm not exactly sure how your life will be changed. But I can tell you how my life was changed as I stepped into doing this in 2011, right? And so 12 years ago, I stepped into this, and then over the next 2 years, I met my friend, who you guys know as Pastor Miguel, who has honestly become one of my very best friends in the whole world. And my life has been changed forever because of our friendship and the encouragement that we give one another, right? And not only that, but then being able to serve with him and alongside of him in his country that is nothing like our country, right? And it opens my eyes up to this. God is bigger than Bluffton, South Carolina. And when you experience that God is bigger than Bluffton, South Carolina, and kind of take your head out of the things and the circumstances that we have here, and you see the circumstances that there are other people dealing with in the world, and how they find, some of it's how they find contentment, how they are pursuing a relationship with the Lord, even in the midst of not having anything to their name. It will change you. It completely changes you. So there's 97 of you, and here's my promise. If like 120 of you show up and say you want to go on a global trip this year, I'm going to find a way for you to go on a global trip this year, even if it means we've got to open up another one. Okay? Because I believe in it that much, but you'll get a chance to do that this year. 97 of you are going to do that. We've already had one meeting. Maybe you've heard a little bit of information about this, but we had one meeting. We have another one coming up at the end of January as we prepare to launch a campus on Hilton Head Island in January of 2025. And so, yeah, there's the golf clap. Yep. Mentioned, some of you know Ben Holland, Pastor Ben Holland. Are you upstairs, Ben? I can't see you. There's lights up there. I think Ben's upstairs, but Ben's going to be leading that campus as our campus pastor, and so we're excited to send him out, as he's been a part of us for, I don't even know, 9, 10 years, 11 years, something like that. And so really exciting for me to be able to send him out to launch that. So if you live like on Hilton Head Island, around Hilton Head Island, interested in being a part of that, you'll find out some more information. You should begin getting some emails. If you haven't, go to the staff page on our website and email Ben, okay? All right, so we have a team of people as we spend this year with Global Mission Partners. One of our goals is that we want to add 2 more Global Mission Partners. So we have a team of people getting ready to go to Mexico in 2 weeks to work with, serve alongside of one organization that Pastor Jason knows. And we're going to go, we're going to explore, kind of see what's happening there in anticipation of adopting them as a mission partner. But also we have a group of students led by Pastor Austin. They're going to be going to Mexico this summer on a mission trip, okay? So just how you're tying some of those pieces together. So you can pray for us. There's a group of 5 of us that are headed over there in 2 weeks. And it's not by accident that I scheduled that trip for wintertime. I'm just telling you, it's not an accident, which, by the way, if you're a planner in January of 2025, one of our mission trips, that's why I said 12 and a half months, because one of our mission trips in January of 2025 is going to our mission partner in South Africa. Now, let me just let you know, South Africa in January is summertime. South Africa in January in Bluffton, right, is wintertime. So if you're looking for maybe a little spot to go next January, I'm not saying it. If you think it's cold here, it might be a great trip for you. But our church continues to grow. You heard this. We're adding a Wednesday night service. I want to remind you of this. It's not Wednesday night prayer meeting and Bible study. Some of you grew up in that. I've led those. That's not what this is. This is the first service of the weekend. Did you guys hear Michelle as she was sharing that? And when you were listening to Michelle, did you so connect that she's our children's ministry director is the way that she shared that information, right? Here's what you need to know. Now let me remind you. That's exactly how you would talk to kids, and we all needed to hear that. She did a great job in articulating what this is. So this Wednesday night, January the 10th, is our very first Wednesday night service. And it will be the same service as next Sunday, January the 14th. So if you're going to be out of town next Sunday, but you're here Wednesday, guess what? Come on, join with us. If you know people that work on Sunday and they've been looking for a spot for them, this is another opportunity if they're free on Wednesday night to be able to come and worship together. I believe it's so important for us to gather together as God's people. And so that will happen this Wednesday night for the very first time. A couple other things real quick. Austin is taking 65, that's a big number, 65 students to camp this summer. We're going to send 30 kids to camp. And one of the things you need to know as a church is like we're assisting with that. You know, we are the ones that are chartering the bus for them. They're paying for camp, all that kind of stuff. So you're a part of being in that. There's also, if you, maybe summer camp was a big deal to you. And you might be able to provide a scholarship. They all the time, Michelle and Austin all the time have some kids that can't go to camp because of finances. And you might be able to step in and fill in a gap for some of those kids. And if you're able to do that, catch Michelle across the way, and make sure that every kid that wants to go to camp this summer is able to go to camp. And the last thing I want to share about what's coming up is we have a soccer camp. We've never done this before. We have an organization that's going to come in for 2 weeks this summer. And we're going to host a soccer camp for kids in the community. This camp's going to serve around 125 kids. We're going to do one camp at our new property just down the road. We're going to do one camp on Hilton Head in anticipation of launching that campus. And so just an opportunity. You're going to be asked this summer, because some of you will need to serve as a host for this group that's coming in. That's one of the things they do. They stay in people's homes for the time that they're here. We're going to need help in other ways by providing lunch for the kids while they're at the camp, and then some other meals for this group of people that's coming in to serve us alongside of us. So you'll hear more about that as the days unfold. So exciting things are coming up. You heard about these new care groups. This week we're starting Recovery Alive. Awesome stuff. January 11th. I've been asked probably for the last 7 or 8 years of ministry, hey, do you have a recovery ministry? Do you have a recovery program? And I always tell somebody no. And I always think when I tell somebody no that maybe this is the person. And it's never been the person until now. And there's one individual, and I'm not going to point him out, but there's one individual that's just said, you know what, I really believe this is what God is calling me to do. They've rallied. There's now a group of people. It's not just one person. There's a group of people that says we're passionate about recovery and helping people. And now that group of people is launching this. They've been working on this for about 6 or 8 months. And they're ready to take it and go, okay, we're going public with it. If you know people that are in need of recovery, this Thursday night, get them out to our new property at the farm. It will be life-changing for them as that group of leaders and other people around them will lead them to discover Jesus in the midst of their recovery. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see what God does with that. And then Grief Share, if you know someone that's struggling with loss in their life, that starts January 16th, and then Divorce Care starts January 18th if you know some folks that are walking through divorce and separation, some things like that. And it's really been neat to see how as a church, as we launch these, each of these in a really unique way is going to serve people in our community way more than it's actually going to serve people in the church. And some of you are connected in those ministries, and I want to say thank you so much for stepping out and just being obedient to what God's been teaching you in your life and being open to Him using you. You are an example of what I'm going to share in just a few minutes. So thank you so much for that. There's always a next step that someone needs to take. I want to tell you that. We want to help you get connected. The next step for you might be Rooted. It might be a small group. And our team is just committed to helping you find and discover your next step in the church. But also what I want to say this is your next step of obedience. Every one of us in our life should be taking a next step of obedience and following Jesus. I heard someone say recently that if you stop taking a next step of obedience and following Jesus, maybe you've stopped following Jesus. And so maybe you need to be considering, like, what is for me this next step of obedience as I look at 2024? Because it's really easy. You know this, I know this. It's really easy to get complacent in our life. It's really easy to get complacent in our relationship with the Lord. And it's really easy to get complacent in taking next steps of obedience. So one of the things that I want to challenge you with is look around the room. I mean, we're kind of running at capacity. Here in Old Town, and which is awesome. Look what God's doing, but we also know that there are more people that need to be led into a life-changing relationship with Jesus, and that's what we're about. And so I want to ask you for a couple of things. One is maybe you would consider attending a Wednesday night service and opening up your seat on a Sunday morning for somebody else, making what I call a missional move. Like, it's just a missional move. You're going to do it intentionally. You're going to say, you know what? I don't like getting up on Sunday mornings anyway. And so I'm going to go Wednesday night so I can be together with God's people. And so I'm going to show up on Wednesday nights, and then Sunday mornings, you're home, you're having coffee, and you're able to relax. Maybe you like to sleep in. I totally get it. The other thing I want to say is, I don't know if you were in the parking lot. You might leave here and say some bad words, and your kids might hear you as you leave because of the way the parking lot is. I want you to know there's some parking that's available to you if you're able-bodied. Let me say that. If you're able-bodied, there's a parking lot actually 2 blocks that way and 2 blocks that way. That you can stop at. If you're coming from, I guess that would be if you're coming from the north and coming this direction, then you can stop at one of those lots and just walk here. And if you're coming from the west and you're coming east, you can stop at 2 blocks up here, and there's about 35 spaces down there. And it's a missional move. It's just a missional move to say, you know what, I'm going to open up a parking space so that somebody else can park closer. Maybe it's a parent with kids and they need to park closer, and you're able-bodied and you need to do that. Make a missional move. And here's the other thing, I'm just for you guys, because I love you, and it's 2024 and it's January. Some of you made a resolution to lose some weight this year, right? And you guys are tracking your steps, and you're trying to get your 10,000 steps in every day, right? So on Sundays, guess what? I'm going to help you do that by letting you park a little farther away. I mean, you can even walk from your house if you want to. So I'm amazed at what God's doing. Thank you. But one of the really cool things to think about is, man, you get to be a part of when we've had 86 people who have baptized and other folks that have stepped into a relationship with Jesus for the very first time. You're making that possible. I'm not sure that you connect how you are a part of that, but you are a part of that in a very important way. And so I just would ask you to consider, like, what move could you make this coming week to say, you know what, I'm just going to make room for somebody to hear about the goodness and grace of Jesus. I'm going to start a series next week called Who I Am, and we're going to spend 8 or 9 weeks walking through all the statements of Jesus in the Gospel of John where he makes these I am statements that mirror who he said he was. Talk about an important series for people that are wondering and questioning this whole Jesus thing. It will be super important and super good for them to be here on a Sunday morning, and you get a chance to make room for them. Okay, so a couple of things. Now, last little bit, and then I got this challenge for you. I'm 1,324 minutes over. Okay. I want you to grab a calendar. Who's a planner in the room? Are you guys planners? If you're a planner, grab your phone real quick. Grab your phone. I want to encourage you this year, maybe more than ever before, that you're going to take your personal calendar and you're going to sync it with the church calendar. You're going to go, these are the important dates. My church is saying these are important dates. I need to be there, and so I'm going to be there. And I want you to know, like I do that same thing in my life. I've done it for almost 20 years where I'm just syncing, and part of it's because I'm the senior pastor, but part of it's because I want to be a part of what God's doing, right? I want to be a part of what God's doing here. So maybe you don't know this. Easter's March 31st. It's early this year. For those of you with kids, it's probably a little distance from spring break this year. So March 31st, plan to be here. I don't know how many services that we're going to have. We're going to have quite a few. But March 31st is an opportunity for not just you to be here, but it's an opportunity for you to bring your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, and say, come with me. I want you to hear the greatest news in all the world. Jesus died for your sins. He was buried and he came back to life, and he offers you the forgiveness of your sins, and he offers you a relationship with your heavenly Father. That's some remarkable news. And I know that there are thousands of people that need to hear that. So March 31st, would you just mark on your calendar? I know normally it's kind of a family day and we do family stuff, but maybe you're going to make a missional move this year to say, you know what, it's not just going to be a family day. It's going to be an intentional evangelistic day for me, and I'm bringing my friends with me. And then have them over for lunch or something like that afterwards. Beach baptism, June 2nd. I don't know if you've been a part of beach baptism, but beach baptism is just one of the highlights of the year for us as a church. As we gather down there, there's normally 20 or 25 people that are getting baptized. There's about 100 of us that gather down there at the beach, and it's a lot of fun. And the thing that I can promise you for June 2nd is that bring your surfboard as well, because the waves will be the best they're going to be all year long on June the 2nd. It just happens every year when we're doing baptism. So, but it's so much fun to be down there as people take a step of obedience and being baptized. Later in the year, we have Missions Weekend. All of our mission partners have committed. They're all going to be here. They're showing up here. They're going to need places to stay, which might be your house. But we're going to have dinner together on Friday night. They're going to come and share on Sunday, and you'll just get the chance to meet them, love them, encourage them, and hear what God's doing around the world as your eyes get bigger than Bluffton, South Carolina. Because some of the stories that they will share, you're going to sit back and you go, I just can't believe that God's doing that. I just can't believe it. And I'm excited for you to hear their stories. That's a great weekend for us as a church. Right after that, we're launching as a church what we're calling a 2-year discipleship journey. And that 2-year discipleship journey is about us as a church and how we're going to grow stronger spiritually, right? And then we're also dreaming in that context of how God is going to use our next place for ministry that we've been dreaming about and praying over for a number of years, and then what role that we're going to play as we step into that. Not just role like like as a church, but role as individuals and families, and how God's going to use you. Partly, yes, in the financial realm, but also in your gifts and talents and strengths, that how you're going to make Cornerstone stronger as a church because you're saying yes. And then, of course, Christmas comes around. It's a fixed date every year. It's not like Easter that rotates. Christmas is, do you know this, December 25th. Do any of you have a gift bought for Christmas this year already? Anybody want to admit that I knew it. I knew somebody would have a Christmas gift. They went shopping after Christmas. They found a gift that was perfect, probably for one of those lovely little children that you have there. Now, here's, as we get into this, Christmas is great, and it's fun, but I'm asking you to make that missional move again. Invite family, friends. It's a great time for us to gather. We had over 1,200 people that gathered with us for Christmas services. It's just a great time. And you have the next 11 months, right, to be intentional in building relationships to bring somebody with you, right, so that they can hear the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, that's a lot, but I'm not finished, so you got to hang with me. I want you turn to Joshua. I want to share with you 2 words, okay, that I want to challenge us with as a church this year. 2 words. The first word is seek. Seek. I want you to just write that word down if you're somebody who takes notes. So I want you to think of that word seek, and I want you to know this verse. Jeremiah 29, there's a verse in Jeremiah 29:11 that you're probably familiar with. And Jeremiah 29:11 talks about the plans that God has for us, plans for hope in the future. And you've probably got that on a t-shirt or a coffee cup or somewhere in your house. But the one you may not have is Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 13. And I want to say the New Living Translation doesn't say quite as good as like the ESV or the New American Standard. But the New Living Translation says, if you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. The New American Standard said something like, when you seek me, you will find me when you seek for me with all your heart. And I want you to think of that word seek this year, and I want you to think about how are you going to seek after the Lord? How are you going to seek after him? His promise is this. His promise is that if you seek for him with all of your heart, in total abandonment, if you seek for him that way, you will find him. You will absolutely find him. He makes himself knowable, right? Whether it's through Scripture or even through creation, but he is saying, look, if you go looking for me, you will find me. And so one of the things that is a church that I'm just putting out there is over the last probably 4 or 5 months, we've had some prayer gatherings, usually about the last Monday of the month. And on the last Monday of the month, we're gathering. We've been praying about the new property, the campuses, and some different things that are going on. And so this year, I want to challenge us as a church in this way. That every last Monday of the month that we're going to gather together, the first thing we're going to do is that day we're going to choose to fast. And you're sitting there going, you're really serious about me losing some weight this year, Pastor. Thank you for helping me so much. You're welcome. But I want to challenge us to fast. The whole point of fasting is this. It's not one so people know what you're doing. That's not it. The point of fasting is that you're going to choose to give up something in pursuit of God. That's what fasting is. You're going to give up something. Most of the time it's around a meal, or sometimes it's just food for 24 hours or a designated length of time. But we're going to choose to fast as a church, and you'll hear some more information about that as these days get closer. Fast. You might fast from social media. You might fast from technology. You might fast just from your phone. You might fast from the meals for that day. And so you know what? I'm going to fast from breakfast and lunch. I'm going to go to prayer meeting, then I'm going to come home, and after prayer meeting, I'm going to break my fast. I don't know how you're going to decide to do it, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it. But I want to challenge you to do it because of this. His promise is that when we seek him, we will find him when we seek him with all of our heart. And so I believe that part of that for us as a church, like collectively, just to say we're going to fast together. Some of you have gone through the Rooted experience. Part of that experience is a fasting experience. So we're going to fast together, and then we're going to pray together, and we're going to do that all year long, and we're going to see what God does with it. So again, if you're a planner, guess what? Last Monday of the month, pull your phone out. Last Monday of the month, just write fast and pray. And we'll meet together. I don't know that we have the time nailed down for that, but you'll hear more about it. At the end of January, we're going to gather together, and there it is. We're going to fast and pray and seek God for what he's doing. Not just in the life of the church, but for you as well and what's happening in your life and your family. We're going to fast and pray. Now, turn to Joshua 24. And I've got to share this with you. I'm going to try to go quickly. I appreciate you just listening and all that God's doing. The other word I asked you to think about was not just seek, but serve. I believe that for every one of us, God has something in some way for us to serve him, right, through the local church, and then in hopes of reaching the world. Like there's just a way that God has uniquely gifted you And here's one of the things I want you to consider is that with that, I also believe that some of you have kind of been sitting on the sidelines for a little while. I don't know why you're sitting on the sidelines not serving, but you've chosen to sit for a bit. And I want to challenge you to say, I'm finished sitting for a bit. And I'm ready to step in, and I'm ready to serve God in whatever way that He would have me serve. I'm willing to say yes to Him in this, right? I'm willing to serve Him, and I don't know exactly what it would mean. I got 3 applications for you at the end of this, but I want you to really consider, like, what does serving God mean for you in 2024? And listen, here's the thing. When you say yes to serving God, that means you're going to have to say no to something else. You're going to try to do all of it. This is what normally happens. You're going to try to do all of it, and then you're going to get really tired and frustrated and disappointed and burned out. And the thing that you wind up stop doing is serving God. And you try to keep all these other things going. And what I want you to consider in this is, what do you need to say no to so you can say yes to Jesus? What do you need to say no to in other parts and other areas of your life that are keeping you busy and occupied and maybe even feeling some contentment in that? I understand it, but what do you need to say no to in that so that you can go to Jesus and say, I'm all in? See, the book of Joshua was exactly that. I don't know if you know the history of the book of Joshua. The book actually only covers about 7 years in the life of Israel. Those 7 years are actually the fulfillment of what God did for the nation of Israel. And so he starts off and he says 3 things throughout this chapter. He says 3 things. One is this: remember all that God has done for you. Remember all that God has done for you through these 3 areas. First, His promises. Second, His provision. And third, His victory. So all of those things, honestly, they apply to you as well. All that God has done for you, I want you to think about God's promises, God's provision, and God's victory. In the first part of Joshua 24, He reminds them of Abraham and how God called Abraham out of his homeland, right, and said, I want you to come out of there. I want you to leave behind the idols that your ancestors and your father, that they have worshipped, and I want you to come and follow me. And Abraham, unknowing where he was going to, right? He didn't have any idea, no clue where he was going. He says yes. And he follows Jesus. And he follows Jesus because there's a promise that's attached to that. If you follow me, I'm going to lead you to this land that I'm going to give to you. And Abraham follows him. And Abraham serves him. And yeah, he makes some mistakes along the way. It doesn't all go as he had planned, but that's what Joshua is pointing back to, is like, look, I just want you to remember, as God's people, God's promises to you that started with Abraham. The next thing he goes to is, now let me remind you of how God has provided for you all along the way. And if you were to start reading Joshua 24, you're going to hear a little bit of the story, how this group of people that wound up in Egypt, like a family clan of like 50 to 70 people in the life of Joseph. You know, Joseph in the Bible and coat of many colors, that Joseph, right? So he winds up with his family in Egypt and it's a small group of people, and you turn the page from the book of Genesis to the book of Exodus. In the book of Exodus, we're introduced not just to Joseph's family, but Joseph's family now has exploded in the nation of Egypt. And they grew not just in numbers, but they grew in power, is what you're told in Exodus. And as Exodus starts out, where the Egyptians are like, man, we got to do something about the Israelites. And so they do. They actually then enslave the Israelites. And they wind up enslaved to the Egyptians for a long, long time, until God tells us that He hears the cries of His people, and He decides that He's going to deliver them from Egypt. And some of this chapter in Joshua 24 is the unfolding of God's provision of how He delivers them from Egypt and brings them to the cusp, the very edge of the promised land. And they get to the very edge of the promised land. They send these spies, and they send 12 knuckleheads into the land. I'll say that, 10 knuckleheads, and then Joshua and Caleb, okay? So 10 knuckleheads go into the land of Egypt, and they come out and say, it's everything God promised, but we shouldn't go in there because there's giants in the land and it's not ours. Joshua and Caleb are going, no, it's true. It's everything that God has said about the land is true. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. There's fruit, there's grapes, there's all this stuff. It's amazing. And yes, there's giants, but God's promised us that land. It is ours. And then they voted, because voting never goes very well. And so the nation of Israel voted, and they said, no, let's not go. And God said, okay. They were right on the cusp. They were right there. And because of their disobedience, God said, fine, you're going to wander around in the desert for basically 2 generations of people. 40 years they wander around, and Joshua, again, is reminding them of the provision. But then he says this, let me tell you about God and his victory. And he starts reminding them about, this last chapter here is like years removed from the victories that they received. But he's going, listen, verse 11, when you crossed the Jordan River and you came to Jericho, the men of Jericho fought against you, as did the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Do you guys know all of them? Man, it's crazy. But this is what God says, but I gave you victory over them. And some of you in your life need to remind yourself of some of the victories that God has given you in your life. Because he has, and he's done it over and over and over and over again. But the problem that we have is we have a short memory. I want to encourage you to expand your memory and to recount God's faithfulness and God's victories that he has given you as you're considering, like, what do you need to give up in order to serve him? You see, a short-term memory, you're going to forget some of those things, and you might choose to keep this stuff going on over here, and God kind of gets a back seat. And honestly, some of you have just been playing church. You've been doing it for a really long time, but I want to tell you, stop playing church. Stop playing church. It's honestly like people that play house. You know, those people that play house, they live together before they get married. That's called playing house. You get married, man, you're committed, you're covenant relationship together, and you're like, man, I'm in it for better, for worse. And some of you are just playing church, and it's time to stop playing church. It's time to get serious about saying, I'm willing to give this up so that I can serve Jesus. You need to choose who you're going to serve and worship. So he goes through those things, your promises, your provision, your victory. So what does it mean? He gets to this place in verse 14. He says this, 1, fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. Fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshiped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord alone. What would that look like? Like, what do you think that would look like for you? What if in your life you just started saying no to all of this other stuff and you said, I'm in. I'm in. Whatever it looks like, whatever it means, I'm just in to serve him wholeheartedly. But he gives them the choice. He says, but if you refuse to serve the Lord your God, then you got to choose today. Everybody's going to serve something. That's basically what it is. I mean, this is written thousands of years ago, but the principle would apply to us today is like everybody's going to serve something. You're going to serve something. I'm challenging you first to seek the Lord, and I'm challenging you to serve him. And in your challenge to serve him, I'm saying, man, would you consider the things in your life that you need to let go of in order for you to serve God wholeheartedly? What does that look like? What does it mean for you? Would you prefer the gods of your ancestors that served beyond the Euphrates? Or will it be the gods of the Amorites in whose land you now live? And Joshua, you've probably heard this. In fact, you might even have it like as a sign over the door of your home. You might have it as a coffee cup or whatever it is. But Joshua replies and he says this, but as for me, this is the decision that he's making. As for me and my family, we're going to serve the Lord. Like we're making this declaration, we're drawing this line in the sand. As for me and my family, we are serving the Lord. We're saying yes to Jesus. And when you start saying yes to Jesus, I want to caution you, be careful when you start saying yes to Jesus, because you don't know exactly what you're saying yes to sometimes. And then you wind up here on a stage in front of people like this. And it's not necessarily the plan that you were making, and all of a sudden you're here. You might say yes to Jesus, and all of a sudden you're leading this Recovery Alive group. You might say yes to Jesus and you're in grief share or divorce care and you're leading it and people are looking at you and you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. It's like, it's okay you don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing either, but you know who knows what he's doing? God does. And I trust him. I trust him. And so, but he's you're the one that has to decide that for your life. And then I would say specifically men, parents, like you have to say this for you and your family. Like, are you willing to come alongside of Joshua from thousands of years ago, and you're willing to say, I'm in too, and as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. God is going to be our top priority. God is going to be in the midst of everything that we're doing. People are going to look at us like we are crazy people because of how committed we are to what God and what Jesus is doing around the world. We are in and we are saying yes to him. And it starts with you individually and then you as a family saying, yes, 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 we will serve the Lord. 3 things that he talks about in there. And even a couple verses later as you get down to verse 22. So what does it mean? First thing it means is this. You've got to deal with your idols. You and I, we both have idols, and we got to deal with them. Because what those idols do is they take us away from what God has for us. And so we've got to destroy them. Like, really get serious about, nope, I'm done with this. I got to destroy this idol that's in my life. I got to deal with it. Maybe you're finding some friends that are going to hold you accountable to it. I don't know what it looks like exactly, but you got to do business with the thing that you are worshiping more than you're worshiping God. So you're going to destroy your idol. The second thing is this, is that you're going to turn your heart to the Lord. One of the ways that you do that, I'll give you 3 really tangible ways. One of the ways is you're just going to show up to church. I know that sounds weird. And maybe coming from a pastor, you might even feel like it's self-serving, but it's not. It's this. I believe in the value of gathering together as God's people. There's just something about being together. I've had the chance this year to go to a few football games, and I want to tell you, it's a different experience when you're in the stands with all the fans, and all of a sudden you're trying to get the defense riled up, and you're standing up, and you're cheering, and you're chanting, and all that stuff. Listen, church should be that kind of an experience for us as we're gathered together as God's people, worshiping the only one who's worthy of our praise. Worshiping the one who has provided for us and who has given victory for us and has promised so many things for us. And it's like we're coming together going, yes, yes, yes. And your life should be fueled as you walk out of here. Challenged a little bit, toes stepped on, absolutely. Dealing with some stuff in your life, that's part of it too. But a big part of it is just, man, we are together on this journey of following Jesus as a group of people. Would you make it a commitment to just make that a priority in your life? Like to be with God's people. Gather together, whether it's a Wednesday night or a Sunday, that you're gathering together with God's people regularly. You want to turn your heart to the Lord? That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to read his word. I told you, 3 tangible stuff, 3 tangible ways. Show up to church, read his word. He's given it to you, 66 books. A whole bunch of different authors, all telling one story about how awesome God is, and he sent Jesus into this world to save you. And he wants a relationship with you, and he tells you all about it right here. So read the Bible. If you don't have a regular Bible reading plan, you can pick up a discipleship guide at the end of each service, and on the bottom of that, it just has some complementary passages to what we talked about on a Sunday. Sometimes we talked about them, sometimes we didn't. But they're right there, and you can read one each day. And then the last thing I'll say this, so worship with God's people, you're going to go to church, and you're going to learn to pray. You got to start talking to God. It doesn't have to be formal, and you don't have to know all the words to say, but you need to start talking to him. We got a series coming up. I want to tell you about it. We got a series coming up at the end after Easter. It's going to be a series on prayer. So if you're in a position, you're like, I'm not really sure what to pray or how to pray, we're going to talk about it for about 3 or 4 weeks after Easter. And then the last thing is this. You want to know what it means to serve the Lord is you got to obey him. You got to obey him. You might have heard Pastor Matt say this last week. He says, how I live shows what and who I obey. So you might have as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You might have that as a marquee in your house, but here's my question. If there's an outsider looking at your life and they don't see that marquee, they don't see that sign, they don't see that coffee cup or t-shirt, do they know? Do they know that you worship and serve the Lord? Do they know that you're seeking and serving him in 2024? I told you, And if you stop taking a next step of obedience and following Jesus, maybe you kind of stopped following Jesus. So I want to encourage you to, as you're reading his word, figure out like what's the obedient step that he wants you to take as he reveals himself and his ways to you. And you're saying no to this so you can say yes to him. So we're going to end. Thank you guys for enduring that with me. Travis was on sabbatical at the end of last year, towards, I guess, October it was. And he came back from sabbatical, and I asked him, I said, what are the top worship songs that you're listening to right now? I know the dude's always listening to music, so I needed to add a few things to my playlist because I don't listen to quite as much as he does. And so he sent me this list, and I started playing them over and over and over again, and there were about 3 or 4 that just really resonated with me. And the song we're about to sing is called Christ is the Center, Be the Center. And when I was listening to it, I was like, man, this is such a powerful song. It became the one I played on repeat over and over and over again. And it's going to be new for you. But there's a part of this song that's kind of making this statement for you. And it says, as for me and my house, or as for me and this house, we will serve you and we will glorify you. It's a decision that we're going to make. This song that you're about to sing, it's not a song that you're singing to anybody else in the room. This is a song that you're singing to your Heavenly Father. You go, okay, this is me and you. And maybe it's new and you're not quite ready to sing it, and I understand that, but maybe you're going to look at these words, and I would tell you these words are going to be some of the most powerful words that you're going to hear and see on this screen today in terms of the music. But here's the challenge that lies before us. Are you willing to make a commitment today, January 7th, 2024, to say, I'm in. As for me and my house, we're going to serve Jesus. You're not going to have it all figured out. You're not going to know everything that you've got to let go of. You're not, but you're going to say, I'm starting the journey of this year, this moment, today. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. In a year from now, here's the thing that will be one of the most amazing things in the life of Cornerstone Church, is when each one of us begins to look back and we begin to see what God did throughout the last 12 months of our life, because we've been saying yes to Jesus, to seek him and serve him. And we get to see what he's doing in our life. Would you guys stand with me? I'm going to pray over us, and then they're going to come out and we're going to sing this song together just as we close our time. Father, thank you for just the truth of your word today. God, thanks for the reminder of your faithfulness in 2023 as we just close that out. And Lord, the dreams that not just as a church that we have of 2024, but I know that individuals and families in this room, they've got dreams for what they want to accomplish, what they want you to accomplish. And Lord, we're looking ahead just with anticipation. But we're also looking ahead to say, yes. Yes. We're going to seek you this year, Lord. And we're going to serve you, and we're going to discover what that looks like and what that means for us all throughout the year. So God, would you, in these next few moments, as we sing this song, as these words just are on this screen, as our team is singing this with us and over us, God, would you use the words of this song just to prick and convict our hearts of those things in our life that we need to let go of in our pursuit of you. And God, we thank you in advance for the work that you're going to do. And it's in Jesus' beautiful, beautiful name we pray. Amen. Let's sing this together.